Welcome to Well Rounded. I'm your host, Tiffany Parker. What is up, party people? Happy Wednesday. So I have some very exciting news in my personal life, and it's not going to feel like that big of a deal to anyone but me, but that's okay. So for the last week or so, I have been teaching voice lessons out of this very room in my apartment. And I was teaching at a studio in Provo, Utah for like 6 to 7 years or something like that. And it was great. I'm grateful for my time there, but it's been really nice to teach from the comfort of my own home, and then most importantly, to get all of the money. So I'm charging a little bit more than what my studio was charging, but I'm seeing all of it instead of like a third of it. So it's very, very exciting. It feels like such a big shift, but I've been so excited for a long time because I gave like a month's notice, and it's been so relieving. I thought I'd be more stressed about it, because I was kind of stressed about it because now all the marketing is up to me, but it's been going really well. I have about 6 students right now, and hoping to get more and fill up my Mondays and Tuesdays. And yeah, it's been so nice. Like it's already, I don't know what that was. It's already such like a financial relief, because I was getting, again, a third of what I should have gotten, and like every month. And so, it's been so nice. It's been so fun. It's been a little bit of an adjustment for people who have, taken from me at the studio, because it's like my apartment, and so they're a little bit apprehensive about it. And I'm like, you can make yourself at home. The fact that it's at my apartment should make it more comfortable. And it's so nice because right now I have some gaps in my schedule, but I can go clean something, because nowadays, since I'm not in school, all of the things I need to get done, I need to be home to do. So like, for example, I have a 2-hour gap in between students right now. So I'm recording this podcast, and that like, I'd have to take all of my equipment with me in order to do this down in Provo, or just not get it done. And then same thing, like most of my to-do list items are either podcast related or cleaning related and stuff like that. And so it's so nice to be able to like, oh, okay, I should really, clean my bathroom before the next person comes here in case they want to use it, and just things like that. So it's just been so nice. It's such a relief. It's such a big, I thought it was going to be a big change, but it's not as big as I was expecting it to be. And so, yeah, it's just been a pleasant surprise, and it's just wonderful. Also, my music room is way cuter than the room at the studio, because I've got my dad's records on the wall. I have my guitars mounted on the wall, which are currently just decoration because I don't know how to play guitar anymore. I barely knew how to play when I was taught. So they're kind of just more decoration, but they look really cool. And then, of course, I have a piano, because that's like the main thing you need. I've had a piano for a long time, and now it actually gets played. And yeah, I have my, my desk that you can't see that is all decoupage with my favorite musicals. And then I have a signed picture of a Broadway guy, and then my posters are in here. So anyways, I digress. It's just been so nice and so fun. So just wanted to share that little life update. Next item of business. So I would like to formally announce that I am officially on the Chappell train. I hadn't listened to her very much, just because no particular reason, just because I have just been busy with stuff. And when new artists become big and they put out whole albums and stuff like that, I like to kind of sit and listen to the music, so I can decide whether it's good or not. No, but I like to sit and listen to the music, and I like to follow along with the words and stuff. It's kind of fun for me. And obviously I'd heard like clips and stuff against my will on Instagram and stuff. But yeah, I never listened all the way through. And so while I was getting my nails done last week, my nail tech was like, I am obsessed with Sabrina Carpenter. And she was like, I'm a little afraid to ask your opinion because I know you're a music person and I don't want my favorite music people to be shut down. I was like, no, it's fine. I mean, I'll share my opinion, but you're allowed to like whoever you want to like. That's kind of the beauty of art and of music, right? I can give you logistical reasons why I think it's bad, because very rarely do I ever just be like, this person's bad, you know, for like no reason. The reasons why I don't like someone or something is for specific reasons, not just because they aren't my vibe, you know. Aren't my vibe is not a good enough reason for me to not like a singer or an artist. So again, we've talked about like Taylor Swift, for example. I don't dislike her to be like edgy. I don't even really dislike her, to be honest. I don't mind her. I don't like her latest album. It's not good. Okay. And I made a whole episode about it. It's not good. It all sounds the same. And that's not really impressive to me, especially when she is a good writer. I do think she is a good writer and a good, like musician, good music writer. And then her singing skills have gotten so much better since Love Story came out for the first time, you know, and things like that. And so I'm not a huge fan of her as a person at the moment, because she's just, until she started dating Travis, I think Travis has been really good for her. And I know a lot of football fans are like really frustrated that they keep flipping to Taylor Swift. If that becomes a thing again, if that becomes a thing again, I will comment and share my thoughts, because I love football and I love the Chiefs. I've been a fan of them for a couple years now, like specifically of them. There are a lot of BYU alumni who are on the Chiefs, and like the coach also play for BYU as well. So that's just really fun for me. And then I love football, and they're usually the ones going to the Super Bowl like every single year. So you kind of got to pick one. But yeah, so if that becomes like as big of an issue as it was last year, then I will of course share my thoughts. But I'm not going to get into it right now. But anyways, so she was making me watch all these music videos of Sabrina Carpenter's. And then I was like, I'm really liking Chappell stuff, because I finally listened to like Femininomenon like all the way through. And then I still haven't listened to her version of Good Luck Babe. There's a band that I really like. They're just small time. They're called Senses. But they have done a cover, and I love their cover because it's just a little bit more rockified, and it's a little bit more, I'm a bigger fan of like the vocal technique in that song. I relate to it more as a singer, and it's fun. That band is very small, and I want to support them too. Like my support like really means that much, but yeah. And then I finally listened to the entire thing of Hot to Go. Such a fun song. Like it's on one of like my new favorites playlists, and it's just like every time it comes on in the morning, I'm just like HOTTOGO, and it's just so fun. It's such a fun song. And so I just am kind of loving our musical revolution right now. I'm here for it. Eminem dropped another album, and I love Eminem. And I also love the chocolate M&Ms as well. Let's just be very clear. I love all M&Ms, not a discriminator. Yeah, so he dropped a new album, and his are always like a little spicy. And then like Chappell, I think she genuinely has such a good voice. Like I think she has such a good voice. I think she's so talented. And I've just seen some articles of her just being like a little overwhelmed by her sudden rise to fame. And so I hope that she can get whatever help she needs, or have like healthy coping mechanisms or something to deal with it, because I think she's really, really talented, and she seems just like really down to earth right now. And again, her songs are just kind of fun. They kind of remind me of like the early 2000s style, and maybe that's why I like it so much. Some of that music where it's kind of a little bit like girly poppy kind of, but not like sickeningly sweet girly poppy. You know what I mean? So anyways, and then Sabrina Carpenter, I like a lot of her songs. I personally am not a huge fan of that kind of like breathy tone that she does. The please, 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 don't let that down. I don't know the words, but where it's like mostly air. I personally don't love that sound. I think I would like her stuff. I think I would be a bigger fan of her songs if she had more resonance. And this is, again, just the opinion of a voice teacher and my own personal preferences. So if you love Sabrina Carpenter, like my nail tech, no shame. It's my podcast. I'm going to share my musical opinions because I analyze music subconsciously. So, but yeah, I think she has, based on like some of the high notes she hits in some of her songs, I think she actually has a great potential to have really awesome vocals. And I think maybe the breathy, super girly thing is maybe what's popular. So is maybe like what's doing well right now, or maybe that's just what she wanted to do. I don't know, but I feel like there's a greater capacity there, and I just hope it doesn't kind of end up being like another Britney Spears kind of a thing where it's like they make her sing a certain way to sell more, you know, because Britney Spears' actual voice, if you've never heard it, you just go like look it up on YouTube. It's so good, and it's very, very similar to Christina Aguilera's, actually. In fact, I think I actually probably like Britney Spears' natural voice a little bit better than Christina, because Christina's just gone a little bit too heavy with the riffs, in my opinion. But I feel like, so I hope that it's like just something that Sabrina Carpenter wants to do, and it's working for her. Clearly, it's working for her. I just personally... like, I have to be in a certain mood to listen to those songs. I do like the Please, Please, Please song now that I've heard the rest of it, because that's all I've heard on Instagram for, like, months now. And I'm like, if I hear Please, Please, Please one more time, I'm gonna kill someone. But now the rest of the song, in context, I'm like, okay, I can get behind this. And then she played Bedken, I think, was one that my nail tech made me listen to. That one was good. The lyrics, it's a little spicy, but the lyrics were really clever and really well written, and I was like, oh, I am into this one. So anyways, that one was really good, and so now I'm kind of dabbling in some of their other songs. So yeah, I'm officially on the Chappell train, and I think Sabrina Carpenter is doing a lot of fun, kind of unique stuff too, I will say. Again, I'm not like the hugest fan of her voice, but I can look past that to an extent. Again, I just think there's more there, and the voice teacher in me is like, let me pull it out of you, you know. Anyways, so those are my thoughts on the current music scene. It's really exciting. I like having new music that all kind of sounds different from each other, just comparing those two artists, right? Like Sabrina Carpenter stuff and Chappell stuff does not sound anything like each other, and that's just really, really nice, you know. Let's just get some variety. And then obviously Eminem sounds nothing like either of those ladies, but yeah, it's just really nice. I'm kind of into it. Anyways, on to the main subject. Are you ready? So I have been like trying to brainstorm how to go about talking about this and what I wanted to say versus what I don't want to say. I don't want this episode to be more than like 30-40 minutes. So I actually, now that I've like sat with it a little bit, I have kind of really condensed what I want to say. But I have watched every episode of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And holy crap, what a journey. And I just want to give some context just in case. So I am a very active member of the church. I'm not a good Mormon. I'm not the best Mormon. I'm not any of that. I think all that is ridiculous. And I can dive into that a little bit more later. But I'm very active. I love the church. My challenge in life has not been related to my religion and has not been like religious based, right? So I have plenty of my own problems and I've had plenty of my own trials and struggles throughout my life. So let's just make that very clear. And to me, it's been a big deal. So, but the church has been the grounding force in my life, and I love being a member of the church. It's not always easy, but it's always been worth it for me personally. So that being said, I watched every single episode. I stayed up way too late for it because I couldn't stop watching. And it's so funny to me. And I had seen a lot of people sharing, articles from the church about it. And then, this person wrote this blog post or something about it and things like that. And, friends of mine would repost them and stuff. And it would basically, I never read them all because they were just really long-winded. And I was like, I don't want to do that. And so, basically they were talking about how this show does not represent the church and how that's not like what the church teaches and that's not acceptable and blah, 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 blah. They're pretty true. My question is though, have the people writing these blog posts watched the show? Because here's the thing, and I can understand why members of the church would get frustrated or upset by it. The first couple episodes, I was like, oh, that's maybe a little uncomfortable. But yeah, I can understand why people would get upset, but it's not worth the hullabaloo that it has been giving on the internet, okay? Because here's the thing, and I came to this conclusion this morning while I was running late for work, and here's the thing, people who are active members of the church are not going to watch that show and then leave the church, okay? That's just not going to happen. Case in point, at the very least, like, I'm an example of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have no desire to leave the church, whatsoever, and I don't agree with some of the things, and I'll get into it, but yeah, active members of the church are not going to watch that and then just go leave the church, okay? And then people actively seeking out the church or who are genuinely curious and want to learn more, they're not going to turn to Hulu to watch The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives to learn more about the Mormon church, okay? And if they do, I don't think they're actually curious about it or about joining. So I understand why some people are upset, but I don't think it's worth, in my opinion, having watched all 8 episodes, it's not worth freaking out about. It's just entertainment. And someone else posted about that, and I completely agreed with her. It's just entertainment, and it's just these ladies who got TikTok famous, who are just trying to create another stream of income, and if you take the church part of it out of there, it's actually kind of impressive, and it's I'm a little jealous, to be honest, because like they're making buttloads of money on their TikToks, but then also on their TV show now, probably. So yeah, it's not worth getting super upset about, in my opinion. It is trash television though, just like The Bachelor is, just like Love Island is, just like Love is Blind. It's not quality TV, okay? I don't think there's any reality TV that is quality, in my opinion. I tried watching The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City just to kind of compare, because that's kind of what that show was giving me. That's like kind of the vibe that show was giving off. And The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City was a bit too ridiculous for me to handle. The women in that were just a little bit much. And again, had nothing to do with the church at all. I was like, okay, I'm losing brain cells just watching this. So it was kind of giving Real Housewives a little bit, but more like TikTok based. So yeah, I've been mulling it over, and there's just some interesting things. So I'll just kind of go stream of consciousness a little bit. This part of the episode's not going to be super organized, just because there's like a lot to kind of unpack, or that I could unpack. And so I'll kind of just go as it pops in my mind. First of all, this show reaffirmed my stance on TikTok and why TikTok is, I think, actually fundamentally ruining people's brains. And I'm not saying if you watch a video, you're you're gonna become a different person. Nothing dramatic like that, but these people who are like obsessed with it, I'm like, okay, like, let's get a hobby. Let's do something. Because I don't have a TikTok, but I see them on Instagram like an adult. So I'm sure I see TikToks on Instagram. They just don't have the little at the end with like the little TikTok symbol. And so I'm not saying if you watch those or you like those that like you're gonna become an idiot. No. I'm talking about the people who like don't have hobbies, don't have personalities, and so like all they talk about is TikTok. Okay? Like I can't get behind it. And that is what these women like tried to do the whole time. And they were talking about mom talk, and this one girl's like, I created mom talk. And it's like the fact that I just said mom talk 3 times now makes me want to dry heave a little bit. You know what I mean? And it's like, these are grown women who are moms, and like some of them are younger than I am, some of them are older, but I'm like, why are we this obsessed with this? One girl that I followed, that I follow on Instagram, was saying that she thinks that the whole mom talk thing was all very scripted, and I found that interesting because I wouldn't have thought that. She was like, what she said is that actual crap hit the fan in the show, and so they had to actually pause filming and then come up with drama later to keep going. And so what happens is the first episode, they kind of like get you with all of this scandal stuff that I didn't even know about. So I kind of wish they would have like dove in. I wish they would have, what is the correct word? I wish they would have dived in. I think that's correct. Sorry if it's not. I think if they had like gone deeper into it, I would have liked that, because I'm not on TikTok and I don't know what the heck they're talking about. I don't know who any of these women are either. Like, I haven't seen them on Instagram. I don't have a TikTok, so I haven't seen them there. And so I kind of wish they would have gone into like that stuff a little bit more, because I have questions and I'd rather not find out. I don't really want to Google it. But then they like skipped like 11 months later or something like that. And so that's kind of where her theory came from, and that actually kind of makes sense when you think about it. So anyways, I think she was saying that she thinks that they were trying to make mom talk kind of the main drama thing, to kind of cover up the actual crap that hit the fan and stuff like that. So anyways, all very, very interesting. What I will say is, I feel like the church part of it is really, it feels like watching the show and reflecting on it since, it feels like they're just women being filmed in their normal lives. Like, it feels very Housewives-esque. And then they just have little one-off interviews of them talking about the church and like sharing information about the church that like kind of ties with the scene before, but not really. And so, yeah, that's partly why it doesn't bother me. Like, some of them claim to be more active than others, then it creates this like dramatic divide, and I don't think that's necessary. And it's all very interesting. So what I will say is that in the trailer and like one of the first episodes, one of the girls is like, we were raised in the church to cater to men and do everything for them and blah 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 blah. Not true. Church does not talk about that. The church very actively talks about being equal partners, and that's for sure what I'm looking for. Someone who can keep up, you know what I mean? And then more importantly, my parents demonstrated that as well. Like, my parents are very much equal partners. Like, my mom is not like sacrificing everything and giving up everything for her husband, and then, you know, it's not vice versa either, you know. And I come from a very traditional household, but like, my mother is a sassy Italian woman. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't take crap from anybody. You know what I'm saying? So I was not raised that my whole purpose in life is to get married and to become a wife and a mom. That's a really important part of it, and it is talked about a lot, and that is something that I do want. But that's not my whole existence, and that's not my whole life. And one of the different women also talked about that. Is like, am I just a wife now? Am I just a mom? Am I just, just that, as if that's not like the hardest job on the planet, first of all. Second of all, I'm like, okay, well, do you have anything else that brings you joy though? Because sure, if you're a mom, like that takes up a lot of your time and your energy, but if you have a hobby, if you have something to do, if you go out with friends, like there's more to women than just that, I do believe. But here's the thing, these women are just like stunningly gorgeous. They're so, so, so beautiful. Perfectly symmetrical faces, I swear. Their hair extensions are really well done, because they're definitely hair extensions. As someone who has very long hair like they do, it's not extensions, there's a difference between our hair. Yeah, they're beautiful, beautiful women who got married very, very young. Like we're talking, I think almost all of them got married like 19, 20, 21, whatever. That's not a problem. I know a lot of people who got married that young. But I also think that there's value in not getting married that young. And it also was a little bit validating for me as a 28-year-old. It's like, you know what? Maybe it's for the best that God had a plan, that 19 and 20 was not my time to get married, because I thought I knew myself back then. No. I feel so much more self-aware, so much more secure. I know exactly what I want, and I know what I don't want, and I've learned the hard way what doesn't work in certain relationships and certain friendships and things like that. And it feels relieving, and I actually feel less pressure now because I know what to look for and what is a red flag, and not a red flag just throwing out red flags willy-nilly, but like what is actually a red flag that I have fallen prey to in the past. And so I actually feel more confident, more secure now going forward into like dating and maybe potential marriage if the dating can start up. And then I would have felt when I was 19. You know what I mean? And so a lot of these women got married very young. It's very common in the church. But yeah, I just don't think that there were some things that were taught or explained well. And I feel like they don't have anything else. And I think that's where they turned to TikTok and made it work, because they're like millionaires. They're like making a lot of money, and they're the primary breadwinners for their family. And some of their husbands are kind of having a hard time with that, which is very interesting. And yeah, so they're kind of turning to TikTok. And I was just thinking about this, like TikTok will never fill the void that a hobby has, or a passion of yours, right? So like I would use me as an example, but my passion and my hobby is my career. So I have other things though. But like even though like I love music, I love sound, and I'm doing those to make money, I need a break from those. And there are times where I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to this concert. I don't want to go to this thing, because it feels like work. Even though it's not work, it feels like work, because I can't just turn off the voice teacher. I can't just turn off the audio engineer anymore. You know what I mean? So I have other things that I like. I love sports. I love going to lift weights. I love reading books. I love movies. I love TV shows. You know what I mean? Like I have a lot of other things, which is kind of why I started this podcast too. It's like I didn't want to just talk about music. Like that's the thing I'm qualified to talk about. But it's like I want to just share my opinions, and I want to talk about all the things I'm interested in, and have guests on who are qualified to talk about those things, so that I can be a more well-rounded person. So I'm not depending on Instagram to fill that void, or Facebook or TikTok or anything like that, because I don't think there's ever a social platform that can fill a void that a hobby can bring. You know what I mean? There's just nothing like finishing a book series that just like made you feel alive. You know what I mean? Or things like that. So, that's what I'll say. I could go off into like, oh, here's, they were drinking and doing drugs and swearing and blah, 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 and here's why that's wrong. No, I have better things to do than like spend my time judging these like complete strangers. It's also important to keep in mind when watching a TV show, a lot of people I have learned don't know this. But in any TV show, even The Bachelor, like those clips, even shows like Shark Tank, because I'm just rewatching all of the Shark Tank episodes because I love them. Even Shark Tank, like any of those kinds of things, professional video editors and directors and producers are specifically picking the most dramatic and the most intense scenes that they can find and that they can pull. And so a lot of things are taken out of context, right? So a lot of people are hating this Whitney girl. I'm not a huge fan of her either because they made her look really bad. And I feel like maybe she's not actually as bad as they made her look on the show. But again, you can cut and splice anything and take anything out of context. And that's kind of the risk you run from a TV show like this. And so you don't actually get to know these people. You know, it's all very, very curated to be attention grabbing and to keep you watching and to keep you wanting more. You know what I mean? And there's probably hours and hours and hours of footage that have been cut out. And then they get a sound designer or a composer or both, and they like put really dramatic, intense music and they time it perfectly so that it's like, Shark Tank does this beautifully. They'll like change the music to this inspirational music when, you know, the person pitching their product is like sharing a personal, vulnerable, emotional thing, and then their main theme, their dun 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 bum 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 bum, and you know they'll like, or when a shark says they're out really early, there'll be like a sound effect, or there'll like be a piece of music. You know, it's all very, very curated to elicit an emotion from the viewers. Yeah, and they're manipulating us, and they're trying to get us to feel something and to feel the drama and to keep coming back for more. Okay, so really important if you do want to watch it. I personally think it's really entertaining. I put it on the exact same level as like The Bachelor, Housewives, all that stuff. I think they just leaned on the Mormon wives thing just to get attention. It doesn't feel super Mormon-y to me. Again, there were just a few things that I was like, but like it, you know, honestly, if you have a strong testimony of the church, and if you understand the doctrine, and hopefully you were taught the doctrine well, because that's something that I have a lot to say about, then it's not going to affect you. And so if you just love the drama for drama's sake, I think it's a really enjoyable show. And I also like looking at their outfits and their hair and like stealing ideas there. Because again, they're beautiful people who have a lot of money, can afford a lot of nice things. Things like that. So yeah, my main takeaway is like, I'm judging them less about, I'm not really judging their like Mormoniness at all. I'm more judging the fact that like these are grown-a women and they're acting like they're in high school. You know, that's the thing that bothers me. I'm like, why does this feel like my junior year or senior year of high school? Like, you have children who are probably going to see this show, and it's not great. Like, no one looks good in this show, to be honest. No one, yeah, it's just a little bit sketchy stuff. But that crap happens all the time. And so I think for a lot of people, like finding this out or having this talked about in the context of Mormonism, I think maybe are not aware that like that's happening regardless of if there's a TV show. Like, there are tons of members of the church I know who swear. I think it's kind of funny when people swear. I choose not to swear, and I try not to swear, just because I pride myself on having a vocabulary. But sometimes, you know, sometimes I say it in my head, okay? But yeah, like, people swear all the time. I knew a lot of people in high school who were members who would like be getting drunk on the weekends, getting high, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not news to me. And I was never taught or raised ever, and my brain never naturally went here to go and like judge them for it, or to be like, you are less than me. You know what I mean? And that's something that is talked about a lot in the comment sections of a lot of these posts, is that like, oh, and the same woman that I talked about that was like, it's really scripted, she had left the church actually too. She was like converted when she was an adult and then left as an adult, and kind of shared some of her experiences, and it's, I don't know if it's just a Utah thing. I think it's probably worse here in Utah, but what I've read from both sides of the argument is that like they're both extremes. And so I've seen people being like, are you paying 10% of your tithing or of your earnings to the Lord? Are you dressing modestly? Do you have a temple regimen? La 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 la. And they're just going through this like checklist of things that it takes to be a Mormon. And everyone calls those rules, and they're not rules. You can do anything you want. You can choose to do anything. That's literally like what the foundation of our church is. It's like free agency, and you can make choices you want. You don't always get to choose the consequences. And so I think where people kind of misconstrue them as rules is that like, oh, if you don't have a temple recommend, you can't go into the temple. It's like, and a lot of people have an issue with that, or had an issue with that. And here's the thing, having toured across Europe and sung in several cathedrals, seen tons of cathedrals. My family and I went to Italy in 2019. We saw all the cathedrals, like all the Duomos, everything. The temple should not be a tourist attraction. And so I actually really agree. And again, I'm an active member of the church, so maybe my agreement is not as like good of an argument or whatever. But having been in cathedrals where they actually have Catholic services all over Europe, and then having been in our temples, there's a very, very different feeling in there. The Catholic cathedrals are stunning. They're beautiful. The acoustics are amazing because I've had the privilege to sing in them. Super duper fun. But the Spirit does not dwell in there. And having, like, literally, we were in the Sistine Chapel, which is at the end of the Vatican, or we did a tour, and that's, like, the last place they took us, was the Sistine Chapel with the amazing painted ceiling. Pictures really don't do that justice, by the way. It's stunning. And there's, like, literally men shouting on a microphone to be quiet in the middle of the Sistine Chapel. It's like, you don't need to do that in a temple because people just know. And because people who are worthy to go in to the Lord's house can go in, you know? And so I very much agree with keeping that separate. Otherwise, it just becomes a tourist trap like anything else. And then it loses its sacredness, and it loses the whole purpose of the building. And so like sometimes when I've gone to these chapels, I've like had to remember like, oh, they actually have services in here. That's really hard for me to picture because there's just people chattering. It's just loud, and it's, you know, it's a cathedral, so it's super duper echoey too. So it's just loud. It's loud in some of those places. You go inside a Mormon temple and it's just peaceful. It's quiet. It's sacred. Even around the grounds it is, you know, sometimes I just go and sit on the grounds just to feel some peace and to just feel the weather and just feel the things. You can feel it on the grounds too. And let me tell you, you can't feel that feeling anywhere else at any of these really gorgeous but kind of gaudy cathedrals. That being said, if you go to Europe, you should absolutely go to all the cathedrals though, because they're really beautiful. They're really beautiful. Some of them are like a little bit too much, but yeah, so I agree with that. Let's see what else I could go off. I think it's just really important and to remember that like how people have interpreted things doesn't necessarily make it doctrine. And so something I see a lot in Utah especially is there are a lot of problems with a lot of the quote unquote rules. And that's just because, and to me, in my opinion, that's the reason why these have been such traumatic things for people, is because they weren't taught in a doctrinal way, right? Like I feel like some people, some parents and some church leaders have just like regurgitated something that like one of the prophets said, and with no context. And so you tell that to a teenager and they're just going to interpret it as whatever. And to be fair, I know there have been some bishops who've been like really inappropriate, have said some really sketchy things, have done sketchy things. Like, I'm not discrediting that, because that absolutely happens in the church and it's really disappointing. But I think it's important to note that, like, there is a doctrinal foundation at the heart of a lot of these things, and it's to help and guide, right? So, like, people can get addicted to alcohol and to drugs, right? If you don't do them in the first place, the likelihood of you becoming an addict drops dramatically. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of the, like, kind of guidelines that we're supposed to follow or adhere to are there to prevent you from losing your agency, kind of thing. I don't know if that's, like, the best way to explain it, but, like, having sex before marriage, right, is a big one too. And it's like the act of creating a child, whether you're meaning to or not, should be taken very, very seriously. And should something happen where a woman does become pregnant on accident, like, I hope that you've had sex with a guy who you know is going to stick around. And so usually, if you get to the marriage point, ideally, they are in for the long haul. And so then you can decide when you want to have kids. If something happens where you have kids anyways, even though, you know, you're on birth control or whatever, like, then at least you know you have a partner who's going to stick with you and has the same values and has the same, all of these things, you know what I mean? And so they're kind of things to help you avoid having your agency taken away completely. And so I think a lot of people don't realize that or don't think about it in that way, right? Because I know I've heard people who are alcoholics who feel like they don't have a choice anymore. I know as a recovering sugar addict, sometimes it's like really, really hard for me to resist. And I feel like I don't have control, and I feel like I don't have a choice sometimes. I just really want the chocolate, you know? And that's like, I mean, sugar's really bad for you, obviously. But, like, imagine if it was alcohol. Imagine if it was, like, an even stronger substance that actually alters your senses, you know, and alters your brain. And I mean, sugar does that too, but I mean, like, alcohol, though, you might not be able to remember what you did, you know, the day before. And that is scary as crap. And so I know people who have become addicted to alcohol, or become alcoholics, they don't have a choice anymore. And it's really sad. Like, addiction is real, and it's really, really hard to overcome. And so the church kind of puts these things in place so that doesn't ever happen, you know? So if you just kind of avoid that situation altogether, the likelihood of you losing your agency completely like that is lower, you know? And, like, you can go to jail for too much alcohol, just going on the alcohol train, right? Like, you can go to jail for that, and then you have zero agency at all. You don't even get to sleep in your bed, and I'd rather die than not sleep in my bed, okay? When I go sleep in hotels, I'm like, where's my bed? You know what I mean? So there are things in place to kind of protect you, and I know a lot of people have issue with that, but for me, I'm very grateful for it, because it's like, I try to avoid any compromising situation whatsoever. Even when I'm, like, filling up gas at the gas station, it's like, I'm always aware of my surroundings, because I know that's a potentially scary situation where something scary could happen to me. And I am trained in self-defense, but I try to avoid going to the gas station at night, because I want to avoid any kind of compromising situation whatsoever. It's not always unavoidable, but it's, you know, I try to avoid any compromising situation as much as possible, you know? And so that's kind of the feeling, that's kind of the reason in my mind behind a lot of these quote unquote rules. You can break them. You do not have to follow them. And I saw a lot of things online that were like, oh, this person's not Mormon enough. This person's not Mormon enough. And I'm like, okay, I understand why you'd feel that, because some people are very, very judgy in the church. People are judgy out of the church, though, too. You know what I'm saying? So I guess what I'm getting at, I'm kind of just rambling now at this point. What I'm getting at is that we all should just, like, stay in our own lane. and judge each other less. Yeah, for sure, people in the church are very judgy. If you've been in the church and you have not felt judged at some point or another, then you ain't going enough, okay? Because I felt judged, and I'm as like Molly Mormon as they get, pretty much. You know what I mean? I too have felt judged by other active members in the church. Like, it's the human experience. You're gonna get judged everywhere. Everyone is constantly judging. And if you think like, oh, I'm not judging people, you are judging people every day. It may be not of their Mormonness, but you're judging them in some way, shape, or form, whether you realize it or not. So anyone that's like, oh, I'm not judgy, they're lying to you. Everyone makes a judgment call of some kind, okay? That being said, I have been judged by people not in the church because I was a member of the church. And so I remember there was a time in high school where I went out with some friends, and they're like, yeah, when I first like met you, I thought you were like really rude and judgy and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, and then they like got to know me, and we kind of became friends, and we went out. And they're like, yeah, you're not judgy at all. I was like, gee, maybe that's because you actually had a conversation with me. And like, I don't know, got to know me. And so I have been judged a lot as well, just because I'm a member of the church, and people just know that. I don't keep that secretive at all. People know that, and they automatically assume I'm a type of person, you know? And I can understand where they're coming from, but it's also hypocritical, you know? Like, get to know a person first, then decide if they're judgy. Then you can judge if they're judgy. You know what I'm saying? So I think the important takeaway to get from this show and from my ramblings is that we all just need to be a little bit nicer to each other. If you are a member of the church, if you're not a member of the church, and you're sitting on your phone on social media and you're just judging someone who maybe is not wearing garments, or whatever, because I feel like a lot of the people who ask these influencers, like, why aren't you wearing your garments? I think some of them are members of the church. I would bet that some of them are not members of the church, though, or they're people who have left the church too. So, we are all imperfect people, and we all are doing our best, I hope. And if you have time to sit around and judge each person's little decision or each person's little aspect of their life, especially if you've seen it on social media, because social media is not real. You don't know anything about a person on their social media. And you have the time to sit and do that, then you need to go get a hobby. You need to go get a job that occupies more of your time. You need to go do something else, okay? Because like, I could sit and judge X, Y, and Z all day long, but I have things to do. I have freaking podcasts. I have freaking podcasts to record. I have guests to try and record. I'm trying to build my own business and brand now, and I have like another job, you know, and I don't say that to brag, but it's like, I just don't understand these people who just have time on both sides, because it's happening on both sides. So I feel like it's unfair for Mormons to get all the blame for being judgy, because everyone's judgy to some point. I've been judgy for sure myself. I'm not free of that. But that being said, anytime I catch myself being like, oh, a little judgy, or spending a little bit too much time on social media to a point where I'm like, oh, why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they doing that? Or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, that's my sign. I need to go do something else, okay? Go play a video game. I don't know. Go do something that's going to contribute to society. Go read a book. Like, those are all genuinely fun things to me. And they will keep you from judging people, okay? Because there's no such thing as being not Mormon enough, okay? Church is for the sinners. Church is for the imperfect people. And, you know, those members of the church who, you know, have this air of perfection or come across as perfect, they are not. They are not, and they're hiding behind something. You know what I mean? So, like, there's no such thing as being not Mormon enough, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you're genuinely trying your best, and if you want to be a part of the church, if you like the community, like, you are welcome. All people are welcome all the time. That is the most important thing. Church is for the sinners. I'm a Mormon who's not remotely tempted by like drugs, alcohol, sex before marriage, like any of that. Well, yeah. I'm not tempted by like any of that. I do want to get married and I do want to have sex, but homie's got to earn it first, though. Wherever he may be, he's got to earn it. And by the time he's earned it, he might as well just marry me first. So, so I'm, as someone who is it's very easy for me to follow the church and the BYU honor code and all that stuff. I am also imperfect and I also need church, right? I don't just go to church because like I should, you know? That is not a strong enough reason, and I would not go to church if that was my only reason, okay? I go to church because I want to be better and I need to be better. I'm a very, very flawed human being. I'm very aware of all of the things I need to work on, and it's overwhelming to think about. And so that's why I need church. And so anyone who maybe has had a faith crisis, or something like that, I want you to know, if you've left the church, that is your life. That's none of my business. If you need to talk about it, I am here. If you are someone who's kind of in the middle ground, like kind of unsure, you are welcome anytime. I am also here for you. If you are active in the church, as much as I am, like, you are also welcome. We are all welcome. Church is for the sinners. Yeah. And church is for the imperfect people. And I think sometimes certain people in the church, will make it seem like you have to be perfect in order to go to church. Those people are missing the point. And they don't understand the doctrine, because that's like literally the scriptures talk about that very thing, that like those who have made mistakes, those who have done this, that, or the other, like, they need to turn to Jesus. They need to turn to God. They need to turn to something stronger and more powerful than them for help. And that is the point of church, of any church, I would hope. Certainly the point of my church. I know that gets misconstrued. I know that gets confused sometimes. And I know sometimes members of the church are not perfect disciples of the church. And that's okay too, because they're human beings. We're all human beings and we're all trying our best. And so I wanted to say all that. You are welcome here. People who understand the doctrine at its core fundamental level, understand that, because that's the point. And sometimes it's hard to remember that, but you are welcome no matter what, and yeah, I didn't believe any of that stuff, any of like the Mormon culture stuff or the perfectionism stuff, until I moved to Utah. And then I saw some things, and I come from like very Mormon Mesa, Arizona, but it's not quite to the level of Utah though. It's like kind of intense. And my high school had a lot of diversity in it too. And so like most of the people I hung out with actually weren't members of the church. And so yeah, I didn't believe a lot of that stuff till I came to Utah, and I was like, oh, this is actually true to an extent. And I think some people have just misinterpreted the doctrine or oversimplified it, or just, kind of have been lazy with their spreading of it or whatever. And it's really unfortunate, because then you have people who are not being treated with like kindness and compassion. And I've heard some stories about some bishops in Provo and stuff from some of my friends in college. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they said that to you, So anyways, I've been very, very, very fortunate in my life to have incredible bishops my whole life, even in the singles wards. So praise the good Father above for that. And then most importantly, credit goes to the parentals, Mama and Papa P, who you met, Big Jim, last week. Hope you guys liked the finance episode. I loved it. Good refresher for me. And who taught in the home the doctrinal principles of the church, instead of just relying on whatever people at church taught, and things like that. But then I was also very fortunate to have church leaders who also didn't just regurgitate crap because they think they should say that, because that's kind of what leads to a lot of misinterpretation in a teenage mind. So anyways, I love being a member of the church. this show is not going to ruin church membership. That show is not going to cause people to leave the church. If it does, those people were kind of probably already had a foot out the door anyway. So it's nothing to be upset about. If you love the drama and you love the tea of other people's lives, then I think you'll enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I for sure will watch the second season because I'm not a huge reality TV person. But man, I enjoyed it. I thought it was so funny. I was like, oh my gosh, just things like that. I think it'd be fun to watch with a bunch of girlfriends actually too, just like I used to with the Bachelorette, Bachelorette. But yeah, to me, it's on that same level. So I think we can all just take a chill pill. People are talking about the Mormon church, baby. Any publicity is good publicity. Am I right? Probably not when it comes to religion, but yeah, I don't think it's worth freaking out over. It's just entertainment. It's just these girls trying to make a buck. And if anything, I think it's just good entertainment. I think it's really, really funny. So anyways, I had to share, oh shoot, this episode's longer than I thought it was going to be. Anyways, I just had to share all my thoughts and opinions on the secret lives of Mormon wives because I'm a very active member of the church who has actually seen all the episodes. And that's important because I don't ever comment on anything if I haven't like seen it or witnessed it or experienced it or something like that. I believe in being informed when you share your opinions and forming opinions and things like that. And so I have watched the whole show and I don't think it's anything to panic about, to be honest. And I'm not ashamed to say that I enjoyed watching it. So anyways, hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. I have a very, very exciting guest next week. I'm so pumped about it. She's been so excited about it. She's been one of like my main guests that's been most excited, which I love because she's like me and she loves talking on a microphone, and we're actually going to record that episode tomorrow when today's episode comes out. So I'm just so excited to have her. Hopefully I can figure out all of the logistics of the video and the audio side of it because that is the hardest freaking part. Oh my gosh, on that note, just one more thing. We should never make fun of influencers again, though. That is absolutely a real job. It is so much freaking work. And so on the one hand, these, mom talk ladies, really impressive stuff. They're making content all the freaking time and it is exhausting. I'm like trying to brainstorm my content I want to create on my Instagram page for my voice studio and all this stuff, and I'm like overwhelmed every time I think about it. So let's give some influencers some credit because it's a lot of work and it's exhausting. Anyways, I will see you guys next week. I'm so excited for our guests and I hope you will be too. Okay, bye. Remember to tune in every Wednesday for Well-Rounded Wednesday, and please leave a rating and a review.